All right, welcome back to another episode of Broke Up, Not Broken. I'm your host, Jamie Lima, and founder of Allegiant Divorce Solutions, where we help people prepare for, navigate, and recover financially from divorce. This podcast is your one-stop shop for mastering your life and your finances throughout the entire divorce process. In today's episode, we're excited to have Sheri Atwood, the founder of SupportPay, and a visionary entrepreneur who turned her personal experiences into a pioneering service with us. Sheri is a child of a bitter divorce who also went through her own divorce and then created SupportPay when her search for a better way to exchange and communicate about child support payments with her ex-husband proved fruitless. I have some experience with that. Yes. What Sheri found was that people have been through or are going through divorce were being ignored in the workplace. So she started to offer SupportPay as a workplace benefit in 2022 and has already seen some amazing results. While divorcees and co-parents are usually some of the most loyal workers, there aren't many tools given by employers to help reduce stress and make their lives easier. SupportPay is on a mission to change all of this. So buckle up, get ready, and grab your beverage of choice, whatever that is. Mine is coffee this morning. And let's get ready for this amazing conversation. Sheri, so glad to have you with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, it's going to be amazing. I have a lot of questions for you. Some of them, they're selfish questions for my own edification. But it sounds like we have some pretty similar experiences ourselves personally. I was a product of a divorce myself. It wasn't bitter. They did a pretty good job when I was 7 or 8 years old, but I had that experience when I was relatively young. And then, of course, going through it as an adult. So maybe share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So mine was kind of the opposite. So my parents had an absolute bitter divorce. So when I faced my own divorce with my ex-husband, we swore it would be amicable because I never wanted to put my daughter through what we went through. And actually, we were both executives in Silicon Valley, and my entire divorce cost $500. We paid $250 filing fees and $250 to a financial advisor to review how I split up our assets and debt, and couldn't have got more amicable. But what no one talked about was life after the divorce, right? So even if you're able, whether it's contentious or not, or amicable, then all of a sudden all the professionals leave. And how do you share and track and manage and split all these expenses, calendars, payments, etc., and deal with disputes? So I was looking for a solution, was shocked there was nothing out there, so decided to quit Silicon Valley and start SupportPay.
It's incredible. You took the leap. The leap. We're going to have to talk offline because I have some thoughts on some software that I'd like to eventually develop, but and you seem to be the right person for this, but we'll take that offline. So your divorce, I mean, I don't hear very many $500 divorces these days. Even as a mediator, I mean, I think the best I've seen so far is, probably 750 or 800 or whatever it is, but that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And again, had multiple houses, cars, boat, a daughter, right, in Silicon Valley. But it just showed and I knew, right, fighting over money is just, no matter what family situation you're in, it causes so much rift, and the people that suffer are the kids. So really, SupportPay is on a mission to end family fights over money.
It's incredible. So talk a little bit about the software. How does it work? Who has access to it? Can the general public just gain access to it, or do you have to do it through your employer? What's up?
Yes, we're available both direct to consumer, so you can on the web and mobile. So you can go download it now, or we offer it as an employee benefit where employers are actually giving it to their employees. You can use it alone, or most valuable is with another family member, your ex, a step parent, your kids, grandparents, etc. And what we do is you simply add an expense. If you have a receipt, you take a picture, it scans it, it auto calculates how much each person owes. We send the notifications. That person can log in, review the item. If they agree with it, they can make or send a payment. But if they don't agree with it, they can actually dispute it right in our app, helping them deal with these disputes. We do all calendaring, all communications, all tasks, family photos and videos, and then all is stored as a certified record that can be used for court or tax purposes or just transparency, even filing taxes at the end of the year.
Amazing. I'm very surprised nothing like that exists. But then again, in the divorce space, there's a lot that is lacking out there. Even some of the software we use, I'm like, wow, this interface is terrible. What do you find for listeners that are out there that are maybe going through some of these decisions they have to make right now? Like we help a lot of people that are in the throes of divorce, right? Smack dab in the middle of it. And, there are concerns about who is going to handle, extracurricular activities and how are we going to manage those and how are we going to come to an agreement on it? I mean, I know this is kind of outside the scope of the software though, but like, I guess in your own experience, maybe some of the trends that you see with the software, what are some of the things people need to be thinking about? What maybe some best tips and tricks that people can start, maybe even make part of their own divorce before they even come to an agreement, and maybe make it part of the final agreement?
That is the actual biggest issue, right? So most experts are focused on current assets, current things, and you're not thinking about all these things in the future. And we have this unique insight of the types of expenses, the biggest areas of dispute. I'll give you an example. I divorced my ex-husband before my daughter turned 1. She's now in college. I never even thought to put in the divorce, hey, you'll split college expenses, right? And luckily, he didn't argue about it, and I always covered most of her expenses. But there's all these things that you don't get into the details. In fact, if you go to supportpay.com, we actually have a full worksheet that breaks things down. Thinking about, school, what does that mean? Public school or private school? Babysitting, is that daycare? Is that a nanny? Is that after school care? Summer camps, who's paying for vacations? Even things like that no one are thinking about, like when your child goes to a birthday party and you have to buy this present, right? Who does that? Or you're splitting medical, dental, vision. Well, another issue I ran into was I paid for the glasses and my daughter broke them with my ex-husband. We never discussed that. So do I have to pay to replace those things? And so it's helping not only if they've already been through a divorce, right? Helping them to manage these things and do it and dispute it in a constructive way, but even providing you as the financial advisors or your clients, even a kind of checklist of things to think about and come to an agreement on early on and get that into the agreement, which reduces a lot of the disputes later on.
100%. If you're listening, I want you to rewind this. Do the people rewind these days? Isn't that the old cassette tape? When we remember rewinding cassette tapes?
I do, but you hit the 30-second back.
Yeah, go back 30 seconds. Hit that a couple times, and then listen to what Sheri said again, because what you're driving home, Sheri, is the point that I try to make with so many of our clients and prospective clients and the listeners that in all across social media, is that when you're going through when you're starting to go through the exercise of jotting down your budget, you're in divorce. You know this.
Yep.
Especially because we both got divorced in the state of California. Every time you communicate with the courthouse, whether it's through mediation or whether it's through a hearing that you have, or whether you're going there for the final time for the judge to tell you that you're divorced, they want to see all of your financial affidavits. They want to know how much you have coming in, how much you have going out, what you've saved so far, what liabilities you have, income, expenses, assets, and liabilities, right? And so many people on the budgeting component of this, they fill out these, in California, it's called the FL 150, right? Where you jot down all of your income and expenses. And so many people are like, well, our mortgage is $3,000. It's like, well, that's fine, but your mortgage is not going to be your mortgage jointly anymore, right? Now you need to start putting your thinking cap on and think about what the future you is going to look like and what those expenses are going to be like. To your point, like so many people forget about college and extracurricular activities and the birthday gifts, the braces, all of those things, the car insurance. What do you do when little Johnny wraps the car around a tree or something? Because that's a little morbid. Let's not go that far. Like when it's a little parking lot fender bender, right? Like what do you do then? Because it's guaranteed to happen. Every kid I've ever known has a little boo-boo every once in a while with their vehicle, right? You've got to cover those expenses. So what you're driving home for me, which I'm super appreciative of, is you want to start thinking about your future expenses, not your expenses today.
Absolutely. And what we have too is you can even use our software to actually even track your current expenses. Anything in our software can be marked as private. So you'll have a picture of it. But now for those income and declaration statements like the FL 150, right? You file it once and then you're supposed to update it. You can have it there. You can have those receipts and be able to give it to you, the financial advisor, to look for it. So it just makes your life easier. It makes the judge's life easier. It's organized, right? And then the biggest thing planning while you're going through that divorce. And then what we found is that those who are using SupportPay are 90% more likely to exchange payments. The reason is that transparency. As I've known, and everybody knows kids are expensive, but the biggest complaint is, I don't believe the money's going to my kid. And by simply having a receipt and showing, oh yeah, shoes really are $150 these days. It actually is size 12 or size 8. Having that transparency immediately, right, increases likelihood of payment, but also gives us a way to store if there are disputes. You can even be documenting that in our app. It goes back and forth, and then it can be printed out to handed back to you as a financial advisor. Say, hey, help us work through these issues, or these are the things that we're dealing with now. What should we be looking at in the future? So we just provide that data, right, in order to work with your attorney, your mediator, your financial advisor, the courts, and then even afterwards, being able to get help on some of these issues that you aren't able to work through yourself.
Do you find that people are less likely to, or I should say more likely to follow the orders that they've been given by the courts to follow along, since there is that level of transparency and frankly, accountability?
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing, is that it's, well, fine. I'm like, I'll give you a perfect example. For me, it was tracking in a spreadsheet, right? I don't believe it costs that much. Here's the expense, right? Oh, here's the receipt. Hey, did you get it? Arguing over text message. Are you going to send me the money? Going to check my bank account, going back. I was an executive, single mom, traveling the globe. It was so stressful and time consuming that it didn't make sense. But then I also felt like I wasn't holding him accountable, because a lot of times he wasn't even giving the money that he should have been, right? And so this just took all the emotion out of it, which is not logical, right? It's very transparent. And the other thing that we do that is unique that no one else does is you can upload a bill. So say it's for childcare or soccer, and it will split that expense between the two parents, and each person can actually send their payment directly to the third party. So you don't have to wait for a reimbursement.
That's
right?
cool.
You can, it's joint billing. So you're not waiting for a reimbursement, and you can then see, oh, look, Johnny has an orthodontist appointment. Let me check if my ex made that payment before I walk through the door, right? I can't force him to, SupportPay can't force him to pay, but you would be prepared. Like, go call him, right? I've already paid my payment.
I love it. Love it. Let's talk a little bit about this as a workplace benefit, right? And because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that, maybe run their own businesses, or whether it be a small mom and pop shop, or, they're responsible for 200, 300, 3,000 employees. I would venture, I already know the answer to this, but it sounds like a pretty incredible benefit to be offered to employees. That, and you're right. I mean, we talked about this kind of in the lead up, and in your bio, there's such a drag on productivity in the workplace, given divorce. I know I wasn't all that productive when I was going through my divorce. It was a very challenging, because you're trying to be so many things to so many people, and you've got the weight of this divorce hanging on you and weighing you down. Having a benefit like this, which doesn't sound like it's all that expensive either for companies to implement, must be a game changer.
And it is. And the first thing is, my biggest frustration is, even today, the word divorce in the workplace is still taboo, right? Yeah. I joke, I can identify as anything, right? But God forbid you're a single or divorced parent. Yeah. So we don't want to talk about it. But single and divorced parents, co-parents, step-parents are the best employees. They're the least likely to leave, right? They need their job. They know how to handle multiple stressful situations and multitasking, yet they get the least amount of benefits. And so what we offer is employers starting at 99 cents an employee, right, to give this to their employees to use it. It decreases the time spent by over 83% every week, reduces absenteeism by more than 30%, notably reduces healthcare claims, because the top two causes of stress are money and family, right? And it can be launched at an employer in less than 30 minutes. My background is cybersecurity. It meets every single security requirement, and we've passed it, right? And so it's not a big lift on HR. And we're seeing average of 25% utilization in the first year. And I'll point out for employers even more is, yes, I started this as a single and divorced mom. I then faced the exact same issue when I was supporting my mother with my siblings. right?
Mm.
I faced the exact same issue when my siblings couldn't afford to pay their bills and they needed money from me, and I needed to track them paying me back or show me where the money was going. So it is for any family member in modern, right, that wants to end family fights over money. That's where SupportPay comes in. We are pioneering modern family finances, really thinking of the family. It's not personal finance, it's family finances.
Yeah. So there's multiple uses for this. This is
Absolutely. Yes.
what has been the feedback from the employers at this point?
The feedback has been amazing. Again, the average voluntary benefit gets between 3 and 5% utilization. 3 and 5%, right?
Whoa, is this, let's say that let's talk about this. So you're
Yes.
telling me like the things like, I don't know, like health club memberships and all
Yep.
these ancillary fringe benefits for that these
Childcare, backup
childcare
childcare, caregiving
only
platforms.
3 to 5%.
3 to 5%. Financial wellness that gives education, budgeting apps. The average is between 3 and 5% of employees use it. Again, so number one, right, is the utilization. Number two, we report back directly the impact that is on their employees, SupportPay is having on their employees, allowing them to calculate directly productivity savings. But the biggest thing, and I have this amazing story. If you go to supportpay.com, you can watch this personal story of a woman who was an employee at one of our clients. And the biggest thing was the impact. And
Mhm.
the SVP of benefits at Hearst Media, where we are deployed, said she never received so much feedback from employees that said, thank you. Thank you for recognizing us as a segment. You recognize everything else, but you
Yeah.
don't recognize single and divorced parents, which led to loyalty, right? Employee satisfaction, reduction in turnover, which is a big thing. And so there's so many ancillary benefits. And I encourage people, if you're the best place to work for working parents, don't forget about single and divorced step parents, right? Blended families and co-parents.
Yeah. I know it's like I can bring my support horse on an airplane these days to stifle my anxiety flying in the friendly skies, but I can't get support from my employer when I'm going through a divorce. But I think this is a total game changer. And you're right. I mean, I remember going through my own divorce, and I try to take advantage of as many benefits that I could, like the employee, I forget
Yep.
what the acronym for it is, but like where you can talk to a therapist and you can get, this, that, and the other, but there was nothing like this, and we used,
Yeah.
we used there was some software, Talking Parents, I think it was for the communication component of this, but nothing that touches on the financial. So what are the future goals and like maybe future iterations of this? Where do you think you're going to be taking this?
So it's really around solving all of how do we streamline and solve family fights over money? So expanding our payment options, one, right? And the big thing that we're focusing on right now is shared visibility into accounts. Let me give you an example. And I'm sure you know this, and some of your listeners may or may not, but let's think of college savings accounts. While you open that for the benefit of your child, right? There's one owner, and you can't see what's going on in that account. You can't tell if that person removed the money, changed the beneficiary, et cetera, right? So us being able, you could come into SupportPay and actually see the balance of that college savings, no matter who the owner is, or whether you have a joint checking account, right? And it's hard to get both, especially with financial services or even pensions and retirements that you're supposed to split long term. Being able to come into SupportPay and have that visibility, again, ending those conflicts, seeing where it goes. We're automating the ability to import even expenses directly from your bank or your credit card. And then we're also working on cross-border payments. So this isn't just a US problem. We're actually being used in 70 countries today by over 170,000 users on our platform. And we've managed over $800 million in expenses, right? So again, continuing to iterate that. And then finally, being able to deliver empathetic parental support on the fly, right? So, hey, example, and we have this in beta right now testing is like, hey, my ex-husband wants to buy my son a Nerf gun and he's 5. Is that a good idea? Right? Or, hey, I want to put my kid in summer camp, but my ex-wife says that the kid should stay home during, or I don't want to start preschool, but should I? kind of these things that are these disagreements that it's hard enough to do it when you actually love each other and live together. But how do you learn from the disputes that we are seeing to help parents along the way as well, and caregivers?
And how are you? Is a third party involved in that, or is this leveraging AI? Like what? How are you doing all that?
Exactly. It's leveraging AI. It's giving insights from the discussions that are happening right within our app, as well as best practices from, across the board of experts in parenting, family, mental health, financial wellness, and pulling in that expertise. And then what we do is we also then link directly to and help you find a resource. So again, we only do the data part. We want to feed that data back. So if you do have disputes, at some point, you're not going to be able to solve it. We have the data so you can go to your expert. So being able to refer and creating that community, that's the big thing. And the other part to mention here is that with one account, you can access all your different family structures. So in my example, with one login, I can see my account with my ex-husband for my daughter. I can also see my account with my siblings for my mother. And then now my daughter who's in college is using it to actually ask for money by getting reimbursed. So show me how much your groceries actually cost, right? And I'll give you the money. So she's even using it, right, to manage these expenses during college.
You talk about a good budgeting lesson for her to learn, right?
Absolutely.
What are some of the I was thinking about this as you were talking about just a moment ago, the biggest do's and don'ts that you're seeing, like don't do this, don't do that. Like what are some of the things that you would share with our listeners in that area?
I think it would be number one, the biggest don't is not tracking this. So whether you are paying through SupportPay or you're doing it manually, you have got to keep records if you've made a payment and if you've received a payment. You could do it manually like most people are doing it, right? You can use SupportPay that automates it. But you need a history to protect yourself. As I always say, you could have the most amicable divorce and you're one marriage away from it not being amicable. Example, everything's great till the new wife comes in is like, wait, you're giving her how much? No. Or the new husband comes in and goes, he's only paying that much? No. Right? So as families evolve, being able to have a record of it and understanding this isn't somebody, if you're asked to provide or if you do provide a receipt, it's not because they're, trying to micromanage you. It's having that transparency gets you paid, right? And does it quickly. And they're more likely to pay. In the same way at work, you have an expense report, you submit receipts, you get reimbursed, right? So providing that proof. And then the other part is, our biggest issue is that one parent will use it, and just because that person recommends it, the other parent says, no, I'm not going to use it, right? So getting it in your child support order, getting it into your visitation. Again, we do all the calendaring, custody, all the messaging, everything Talking Parents does, everything Our Family Wizard does, but also all the finances, which is really the cause of fights across the board. So getting it in or agreeing early, right, that you'll use a tool, whether it's SupportPay, there's nothing else out there like us, but something to make your life easier and more streamlined and end the fights.
Yeah. End the fights. Any questions that I should have asked or anything that we didn't cover today that you want to share with our listeners?
No, I just think, again, it's a huge area that no one's talking about. Everybody talks about personal finance. But in today's modern families, and they're spanning households and bank accounts and everything, really, what can you do, right, to end those fights, end that conflict, provide transparency and accountability? And I also encourage people, if you go to SupportPay, you can contact me directly or my support team. If there's a feature you want, literally me and 98% of my employees are directly impacted by this. So we are building this, right, to help people. To actually help people and make a difference. So if there's things that you want or you need, if you wish we did, please contact us and we will definitely get it on the roadmap.
I love that you're open to the feedback like that.
Yep.
It's incredible. Well, thank you so much, Sheri, for joining me today and sharing the inspiring story behind SupportPay. and more importantly, its impact on co-parents and workplaces in general. For listeners who are interested in learning more about SupportPay or wish to consider it as a workplace benefit, please visit SupportPay's website and follow Sheri on LinkedIn for latest updates. We're going to put all of the links in the show notes. So if you're driving, don't worry about going back to the earlier parts of this. We've got you. Remember, if you're navigating financial complexities or personal challenges post-divorce, or while you're going through it, Allegiant Divorce Solutions is here to help. Visit AllegiantDS.com for more resources and expert advice. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more insightful discussions just like this. Until next time, we'll see you again.
Thank you.